Namato Ratana Tayasa. May I pay homage to Triple Gem, the Buddha, Dhamma and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. Hello, good evening. So today is Thursday the 9th of July 2020. And this is Ajahn Sujan from Varapunya Meditation Center, Aberdeen, Scotland. As usual, I'm here to give some of the reflections on the teachings of the Buddha and how to apply in our day-to-day life. Sometimes you may not be able to apply, but at least you can gain some knowledge in relation to the teachings of the Buddha. So, thank you everyone for listening far and wide, locally and internationally. So thank you everyone, Margaret, Colin, Manish, and everyone, those who are listening. So far we have been talking. Falada, thank you. So far we have been talking and concentrating on the first discourse of the Buddha. As I mentioned, that this is the foundation ground for the entire Buddha's teachings. If we really understood these teachings from this discourse, then definitely we will be enlightened. And I do understand a little bit, but I'm not enlightened yet. I hope from my sharing, one of you will be enlightened. And then, if you're enlightened, don't forget to come and tell me that you are enlightened, okay? And share some of the teachings. So maybe that will be my guidance to me, and I can develop in the path to the liberation. So thank you everyone listening to the talks and the reflections. And sometimes the talks may not make sense to you, but just the sharing and being with you and talking, I'm also not enlightened yet, and I have studied and I have learned something and a bit of it, and I'm explaining and sharing with you what I have learned and what I have understood, and which again some of you may have more knowledge about it and more understanding about it. So, and in that case, take it as a little bit of enforcement or help to polish your understanding a little bit more. And if you haven't heard, take it as a new knowledge, as a path to liberation. So, in whichever ways, thank you for listening. Okay, thank you for listening these talks every night. So in last night or a couple of nights, I've been focusing on the Four Noble Truths known as the Arya Satya. And yesterday it was a really frustrating subject, the suffering. And it's really kind of it's really a difficult subject. And when we talk about it, it's really a sadness about the topic, because it's a dukkha, it's a suffering, and then I try my best to entertain with it to you all, right? But I hope it didn't bore you and you enjoyed the talk. So today again, I wanted to give you a little bit more extra information on this topic, the dukkha, in relation to the previous talks as well. So the dukkha that we studied yesterday, 11 types of the dukkhas, right? And then previously I was talking about how many types: the dukkha dukkhata, viparinama dukkha, sankhara dukkha, or basically ordinary dukkha, and this condition dukkha, and a change causes a dukkha, like that. And yesterday I was talking about 11 types of the Buddha in relation to the discourse of the first discourse and the Satipatthana. And then today I just wanted to give you a little bit of broad understanding that, according to the dependent origination, dukkha is arise, or the cause of the dukkha is simply the tanha and not knowing what should be known. And in relation to this dependent origination, that simply saying that everything arises due to the conditions, and that's how that is the cause for the trouble. And in the three characteristics, again, in relation to the change is a dukkha. Here the change causes the dukkha. Basically, the teachings of the Buddha explaining that everything is in change. So every condition, things are transient. So it's constantly changing. Nothing remains the same. And when nothing remains the same, what happens is we have this desire, or we have this the thought or hope that this will not change. These not change, but it won't change. It won't as we wish, and as a result, that creates the suffering. Okay, and that creates the suffering, and that comes under the three characteristics, also known as the samanya lakshana, right? So that's how the dukkha is also very important topic to understand things. But once we have fully understood, then we gain the happiness. It's like, we have to know the cold and how much we can bear of this cold, and then we will go and change the environment by wearing an extra layer of clothes or setting up the fire, and that gives us a more warmness. In terms of this wearing the cloths, I do notice a couple of days ago when I was giving talks on the nights, one of the gentlemen commented saying that if it's not too cold, a monk shouldn't be wearing a robe, shouldn't be wearing a jacket or the cloths. And I was laughing at this because the person who commented probably never been to the cold cities or cold countries, and if he had been or has planning to go to the cold countries like in Scotland, definitely he will have to wear the extra layers of the clothes, like me wearing. Now it's simple, but again, as the winter comes, then I have to wear more layers on it. It reminds me the story that a few years ago, probably 10 years ago, I heard that one of the abbots in Europe was wearing a jacket during the winter time, and he took a picture and sent it to the senior monks in Thailand. And having seen that picture in the report, the senior monk told this monk that, how dare you're wearing these jackets? It's not. It's inappropriate to wear a jacket. You're a monk. You shouldn't be wearing it. And this monk didn't say anything. Waited for the right time. And the following year, he invited the senior monks to visit in Europe during the winter time. And as soon as he arrived in the airport, he felt the coldness, and then as soon as he got back, arrived at the temple, without saying anything, he asked for the jacket and boots. So this monk was very clever to let this senior monk know that how cold in the Europe while during this cold winter time, and as a result, we have to skillfully use different sorts to survive in this cold time. So that, like that, okay, it's just out of the topic today anyway. Just wanted to share this, right? So, and as this is the dukkha, so when we know the suffering in a real term and really understood it, so-called parinyaya and parinyatanti me bhikkhave, so fully understood, then we have choice to be in suffer or not. That's why I think I have mentioned that suffering is inevitable, but the pain is your choice. So then we will be able to choose to be painful or not to be painful, or to be suffered or not to be suffered, and like that. But again, there are so-called svabhava, or the natural suffering that we cannot deny. That's basically, I have mentioned yesterday as well, that the birth, and after we are born, decay or the getting old, and the sickness and the death is a natural things that we cannot deny, that we have to face it. But then the rest others are simply the outcome, and it is based on how do we react. So today, in relation to the birth, I just wanted to extend a little bit here that how do we conception, enter to the mother's womb. In the Tanakaya Sutta, one of the discourses that Buddha gave said that how a baby born in the womb, saying that the first of all, mother and father has to have the sexual intercourse, and the second, mother needs to be mature for the having this pregnancy. And then the third one, so-called Gandhabba, has to entered into this mother's womb. So these three needs to be come into the same time, and only then it's possible to have the pregnancy. Otherwise, it is not possible. So that's why there are so many examples that we can see that father or mother, they're having a sexual intercourse, and a mother probably mature according to the scientific researches, investigations, and yet they cannot have a baby. So that's simply because so-called Gandhabba, or the consciousness, so-called the Patisandhi consciousness, hasn't entered at the time of the intercourse, and as a result there is no further father born in the mother's womb. Whereas the very moment when there is intercourse between the father and a mother, and a mother's pregnancy time is mature, and the Gandhabba, this Vijnana, enters, or Patisandhi Vijnana enters, then the pregnancy begins. In that discourse, Buddha further again said that it takes around 40 to 44 weeks to be mature to get birth. And during this time, when living in a mother's belly, and during the pregnancy time, mother is going through the pain, going through the difficult time, but the baby in a way having a less suffering, because he or she, the baby, is basically surviving through the mother, and as a result the baby has a less suffering. But the very moment when the conceptions or it's about to giving a birth, that time a baby has to turn over and put this head towards the door, and that time again a baby will suffer a lot, and the meantime a mother also suffer a lot, and this is known as the birth time suffering. Okay, and this time can be a deadly to the both mother and the child. A mother will suffer a lot, and a baby will suffer a lot too. So as soon as the baby comes out to the birth again, that's the beginning of a new suffering that he has to face, or this baby has to face. And this moment of the birth, again, according to the Buddha's description, saying that it is so painful that as soon as come to the world, one has to face with this environmental, pressure and the so-called how to say it, it's like a two things coming to mix together and making the trouble. And that's sort of a dukkha at the time of the birth one has to receive or have to experience. And there are so many other examples as well, that some people, some mothers couldn't give a birth and a baby died, and then sometimes baby born but mother died, and other times because of the vulnerability of the mother, the doctors have to kill the baby in order to save the mother, and sometimes a baby born but mother died due to the pain, and that is also part of this suffering, what's called the jatibi dukkha, and that conditioned the rest of the day, rest of the time, throughout the timeline of our life until our death. And during this until our death, again, inevitable that we will go through different types of the sufferings that I have mentioned yesterday. Let's say in simple terms, even the hunger, physical need, and these are small things. That's also known as the hunger, right? The trouble, a problem, and this is known as the dukkha as well. And I have met a baby was born, a premature born, like a 6 months born, 6 months premature born babies, and that the baby was conscious but very unfunctional, even can't walk, and talking with their parents, what I have realized that they were talking that this baby has got the holes in his brain, and because of that he was dysfunctioned and cannot walk like that. And also premature born, there are, having said that, there are some who, although prematurely born, still able to function properly, although they physically they're probably little less stronger than anybody else, but they're still alive and ability to work on, with particularly modern technology, these medical inventions, they again gain the strength and able to carry on with their life too. So, and these are some of the things I just wanted to share with you in relation to the birth that we experience in our day-to-day life. And in the meantime, in relation to the loss, I also wanted to express that it's inevitable that we will we will lose our loved ones, and this is again very difficult to accept, and but again it's inevitable, and everyone has to go, that the death. So I heard so many stories that people go through with this death, and particularly if a person who has lost their parents at the very young age, they feel very, very depressed throughout the year or throughout the life, question of why, and there is particular one story that one man, he was just about the 20s, and his life was, he was just taking a cocaine, or a very bad boy, and yet in the 20s, early 20s, he was asked by his mother to go and visit his father, and somehow in his father's room was locked and he couldn't go in. And after that, fortunately, he had a key, so he opened and went into the room and found that his dad was dead. And that has significantly changed his thought and always a question of a why, and that has caused a lot of trouble, and fighting with the friends, just to find comfort himself. And further on, when he lost his close friend, it even became more depressed, and bereavement continued until he come to contact with Buddhism and practice meditation, and finally he realized that these are the subject too. We are not overcome by with it, so everyone has to go. And he comes to the terms, and gradually he meditated and studied Buddhism, and later on he became a good meditation practitioner and as well as a coach. So that's another one story. And then this is very even I have lost too. My father, first first encounter, the proper death was like when I was a child, and my brother died, and that time I didn't know anything, and yet there was a feeling of why he died. There was always a question of why he died. And later on, gradually, I come to Buddhism and understood that this is a nature that no one can deny, and we all have to go one or another. If our parents not dying early, then we may be dying early too. So there is no fixed time that we all have to go through with it. Even the Buddha had to go through. He lost his mother when he was 7 days old, and he never met his mother himself for so many years until he became the Buddha. And the scripture says that he went up to the heavens to pay back his mother's so simply going up to show his gratitude to his mother, and taught her so-called Abhidhamma, and this is also his loss. And before Buddha passed away, he lost his father too, and he lost his relatives too. So he went through with these too. But however, because of his mind was not attached to these situations, not attached to even his own physical body, he had understood completely the cause of these sufferings, and able to overcome and just simply say goodbye to all relatives, like that. And recently again, because of this coronavirus, there are so many other families, those who have lost their loved ones, and more difficult for them is that they cannot visit, and they cannot see their relatives or their parents who passed away, and that's even more sad news to know. And yet we cannot deny, we have to face it. And that is also one thing that we should be conscious about it, that one day we all have to go, and this is a suffering that we do not want to accept that going in, and the ability to understand that is basically understanding this cause and effects. So the practice of a meditation and practice of studying the Dhamma is basically to broaden our understanding about this concept, and practically understanding these teachings in order to overcome from this misery and find the ultimate happiness of Nibbana. So I end on the Dukkha today here, and we'll see you tomorrow at the same time at 6:30. Until then, we'll see you. In a few minutes time, we will have chanting and guided meditation. You're most welcome to tuning in. If not, then we'll see you tomorrow at 6:30. So thank you for listening, and may you be blessed. May you be well. May you be safe. Take care. May the Buddha bless you. And good night. Thank you.